This week, we've got a ton of bad news that we'll try and counteract with some good news. Heavy question mark on that one. This is the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Good Game, Bad Game podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, and with me is a man who's recording on a laptop that's on its last leg, so hopefully we make it through the episode. It's my co-host, Mike. Mike, how are you?
I was just talking to my brother about this yesterday. Because Samsung, I don't know if you saw any of this, but they came out with like their new phones and all that fun shit. And their new folding phone is like $2,100.
Oh.
And that is more than I've ever spent on a single piece of technology, frankly. And more than I've ever spent on a laptop, which, and maybe I'm old fashioned, but I expect computers to have more power than smartphones.
Yeah, and the computer typically, like if you spent $3,000 on a computer, throwing out an arbitrary number, but if you spent $3,000 on a computer, you'd expect it to last more than 5 years, or at least 5 years.
See,
Whereas
that's an interesting perspective to me.
a $2,100 phone, I know you don't have to upgrade it after a year, but a lot of people do. And phones
Well,
for me typically start to about the 3 year mark. I want to say typically they start to kind of like fail a little bit.
yeah, they definitely get hard to use.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, sometimes you forget and you're like, oh shit, I've had this phone for 3.5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at with my phone. It's 3 years old now. And I mean, the only thing I noticed is that like the battery doesn't really get me through the day,
Yeah.
even if I'm not, using it all that heavily.
Yeah.
But I don't want to buy a new phone. It's not something I want to spend money on. And now it's like a minimum of, okay, maybe like $899. There are cheaper options, of course. There are still, under sub $500 phones you can get, but you know, I find that those last you, you're lucky to get 2 years out of those.
Right.
Um, so my brother and I were talking about this, and kind of similar to this conversation, like the laptop I'm using right now, I bought in 2018 for $1,200 or something like that. And it's a decent laptop. I mean, it was one of the higher end Surfaces at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I expected that to last me 10 years, like easily, and like not have to like jerry rig it or do all these different things. Well, this laptop isn't even supposed to have Windows 11 on it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Windows 10 is now, I think come October, like basically not being serviced anymore.
Where did I just see that there's like a rip of Windows 10 that will be serviced until like the 2030s?
I think I did see that too.
Regardless, keep
Which,
going.
yeah, no, but it's, I spent $1,200 on this laptop, and I expected it to honestly like be the last laptop I get for a very long time. I mean, I need one less and less and less, as the years go on. Like I get typically, I guess not on my last job, but like I have a work laptop.
Yeah.
Um, and like we have an iPad that we'll use for just like general searching stuff or traveling with or whatever. Um, so to me, to warrant like a phone that's more expensive than a laptop or a decent computer is just crazy to me.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that's just the state of things. I mean, My phone is the computer I use the most in my life, so I guess like it makes sense that that's the demand for it, that the price should be higher because it's pretty much everyone's everyday computer these days. But there's just nothing that I'm doing on my phone that's worth $2,000.
Right.
Like, there's nothing that I do on my phone that I couldn't do on whatever phone I had 10 years ago.
Right.
But they just like they don't get updates and they get slow for whatever reason. And like I typically like when I get on with a phone for a while, I'll factory reset it just so like I don't have all the apps and shit. Like it's just a fresh start.
Mm-hmm.
I can download whatever I need from there. Uh, yeah, just crazy. And nothing. Everything has gotten so much more expensive, and nothing lasts as long. And it's all just because the software sucks.
Isn't it funny that like every year we become closer and closer to like old man yells at cloud that we like used to point and laugh at?
Yeah, like Linux users.
Hey,
Now,
you
now
leave my
here.
dad out of this.
He was right all along.
um,
I just bought a used ThinkPad this year that I intend on putting Linux on. Once that stops working, I'm gonna use that for the rest of my life.
yeah, there you go. I keep seeing like the term enshittification going around a lot, especially as it correlates to video games specifically. But yeah, I mean you see it everywhere. It's this again. It's the same thing that people have been kind of like yelling about, and like we're I guess just like active participants in the economy now, so we also are like getting bit by it, which is that like things don't last as long and they're more expensive and so on and so forth. Total aside, but like we were over at my great uncle's uh for dinner, and he pulled out this like indoor griddle thing that looked like a fucking fire hazard. It was from the 50s, and he cooked us a perfect pork loin on it, and it was delicious. And I could not fucking believe that I was staring at something that predates me by 40 fucking years, and it works
Yep.
flawlessly.
My parents have a little griddle, again, electric indoor griddle that they've had my entire life. I mean, it could be, I don't think it's as old as the 50s, but
Mm-hmm.
at least the 70s, 80s, probably. Regardless, it predates me. And I'm sure it's the person making it, but the tools certainly help. But I think the best eggs I've ever had in my life have come off that grill.
Yeah. Yep.
And they still use it.
Yeah, it's just wild. Now, granted, there might be some sort of black magic within it that knocked 10 years off my life because of it.
Yeah,
But
lead.
uh but still, it's wild. It really is that every day, the products and everything like that around us are just slowly getting worse and worse. It just
Yeah.
keeps chipping
And,
away.
well, and it's funny, like you think about brands that typically have been immune to that. So we had this conversation with my brother and left us talking about Apple
Hmm.
because he was like, "Oh, well, Apple seems like the last bastion of like technology that lasts longer. You can't say forever anymore, but longer." I'd say that's typically true, but we were talking about the 2020 MacBook Air.
Hmm.
2020, not that long ago, half a decade, which arguably pretty long, but
Hmm.
if you don't really think about it, it was yesterday. And I was like, yeah, it's crazy that that laptop probably won't get the new Mac OS update, and it's 5 years old
Hmm.
because I think they're only updating things with Apple Silicon. And like there's just been like these technology companies can't decide what they want. Like they want control, but they don't want to do the research into like having their own hardware. And then they finally decide to have their own hardware, and they're like, anything that doesn't have our own hardware is now fucked.
Yeah.
Should have traded up every year.
Yep. Well, and for what it's worth, these companies have figured out a really like just seamless program to put you into, where it oftentimes, unfortunately, does actually just make more sense. Not because it should, but it makes more sense to just like upgrade because you're going to actually save yourself cost down the line.
Yeah.
Because they're going to pull the plug on stuff early. So you're just like avoiding that, which shouldn't be a thing. But because you do that, you can just always have the most updated thing. So they like force you into that like system, which is like, shitty. Like, I mean, I know this because like, we have a friend who works at Apple, so he knows all the systems and, the like amount you'll get for a trade-in versus how much the next thing costs and all that. And it's like, it's a pretty favorable thing, that they'll give you. And Shelby has, the personal computer she has for doing her like freelance and design stuff is a Mac. And we just got her a new one, and we're realizing that like, instead of waiting for this thing to like be in the ground and only getting like X amount back and then needing to pony up, $3,000 probably for the new one, we'd be better off just like getting the new one in a year or two and trading this one in while it still has like potentially half the value of the new one
Right.
in recouped value. And so you're then in a cycle of just paying $1,500 every 2 years instead of paying $3,000 every 4. The math comes out the same, but you're always on the updated tech and everything like that. And
Right.
so you like, that's kind of an added benefit. It all works out in the wash in the end, but like that's the kind of new ecosystem of like tech upgrades that these companies are doing. And it again shouldn't be that way because the computer would have kept working perfectly fine, but you like hedge your bets,
Yeah.
effectively. It
Yeah.
sucks.
And then you have to deal with all their altruism of how like, oh, you should only charge your laptop certain times of the day because you're killing the planet. And they're like, give us your laptop back so we can throw it in a fucking landfill and give you a new one that you can throw away. Like, go fuck yourself.
No, it's give us your laptop back so we can refurbish it and make $500 off of it by selling it to some sucker who doesn't realize that they should actually just get the newest thing.
I guess.
Or throw it in a landfill. So anyway, hey,
Yeah.
what games have you been playing?
Um, fantastic question. Um, I can tell you that I've been playing a lot of Switch sports.
Oh,
Yeah. So this week has not been a good video game week as in comparison to, the week before that, and it's the summer. We played my brother and I played some Switch sports on the Switch 2.
mm-hmm.
Hit the links, had a couple beers,
Nice.
talked using the game chat, which still works fantastic. And then we were traveling for the holiday and brought the Switch 2 with me. We were at a cabin and woke up early one morning before everyone else and had some coffee and put the Switch in like the stand mode on a log and played some golf outside.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
it
nice.
was, it
That's
was
pretty
pretty
cool.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice having the bigger screen. Like I
Yeah.
felt like I could actually do that. I don't think I ever did that with the Switch, the original Switch, because it was just too small. Like, and for how far you need to be away to play a motion game.
Sure.
But I thought it worked well.
Very nice.
Yeah. Um, I guess in brief, I should discuss what we discussed before we started recording when we should have been recording all along.
All right.
I'm not blaming you,
I know.
blaming us.
I never know. I never know when like we're going to be exchanging like secrets of the state. So like, should I be recording those? What if I'm a terrible editor, so I'm lazy. I guess is really the real thing.
Yeah.
So
The amount of times one of us could be in jail.
One of us. Brother, I will go down with this ship. If you're going, I'm going.
Hell yeah. So I think I'm putting Super Mario Sunshine, and to tell the joke that I told earlier, on the Super Mario sideline. And that's because I'm having all this FOMO about Death Stranding 2. And this is doubly worse because I didn't play the first Death Stranding. So you see the progression.
I was gonna say, if people can't figure out the equation at hand here.
Yeah. Which I think Death Stranding was on my list.
Let's see. I think I have.
I can't remember. I know I had. Maybe I had Metal Gear Solid 5.
You had Phantom Pain and Metal Gear Rising, so 2 Metal Gear games. No Death Stranding, but Death Stranding was, we were careful about not having too many new games. So it looks like your 2 newer games that you chose were Metal Gear Solid, Phantom Pain, and Knack 2.
Oh, Knack 2. Hold on, that changes things. Yeah. So I really want to get to Death Stranding 2. So I'm gonna play Death Stranding, which I think is gonna take me a lot of time.
Yeah. Sorry, keep going.
No, I don't have time to have that many games going at once.
Yeah.
So we're moving on. Moving on to Cincinnati.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm happy to like keep going, on this little, like, we'll call it challenge or goal or whatever that we had set at the beginning of the year. Because I think I was thinking about this a lot. I did end up playing more Red Dead this week, and I'm having a ton of fun with it, and I'm continuously like so impressed at what the game is, and the era that it's from, and all this other stuff. And I'm constantly thinking about Red Dead 2 while playing Red Dead, and really just enjoying it. And I'm happy that I'm playing it, and I'm happy that this kind of forced my hand to play it. I've just been doing so much thinking on it because I was like, man, I'm having so much fun doing this, and like, I love that I got forced into like playing Luigi's Mansion. Had a blast playing it. I love that I got forced to play Red Dead Redemption finally, and I'm loving it because, of course, why wouldn't I? And I was like thinking about it, and I'm like, man, it's just like I wish Mike was kind of having that same like that same love for it. And maybe if you would have started playing Super Mario Sunshine, you would have been perfectly into it and whatever. But I do think that like this is kind of the perfect example of like sometimes you just need to play whatever it is that you want to play, and putting yourself in a box won't work. And then for some people like me, like we're literally just 2 flip sides of the same coin, like you can't, it's hard for you to like put yourself into that like one box and like force yourself into enjoyment. And I think that's like perfectly fair. And like even if you try to like play something, you're always going to have the Green Goblin mask calling you to play Death Stranding or to play Ghost of Tsushima or whatever. And for me, it kind of helps me to just like hone in, and like, I just need the decision made for me. I need to just play this game because otherwise I'll just keep playing MLB, and I want to like, I'm trying to force myself away from something, and I don't know. I kind of love it. I kind of love that like we're both having 2 very different experiences with trying to like put ourselves in a box. And I think it's cool.
I think the other circumstance of this is the room that my GameCube is in does not have air conditioning.
Sure.
And it's summer.
Yep.
And plus just the time of year, and it's, I think about frequently, like if the Switch 2, if the GameCube emulator had Super Mario Sunshine on it, if I would like be more apt to play it because 1, that's set up in a room with air conditioning, and 2, like I can travel with that.
Right.
So I think it's hard this time of year to play like an old console that is set up on one TV.
Yeah.
I think probably the only TV in the house at this point that can play it. Um, yeah, to your point, like I think this is definitely making me realize what I really want to play because I know I need to play Super Mario Sunshine. But like I told you before we started recording, like every time I go to my barber, he's just talking about Death Stranding 2, and I'm like, fuck, I really need to play this game, but I still haven't played Death Stranding. And it made me realize that I should have prioritized Death Stranding years ago when it came out.
Yep.
So now I wouldn't like be behind. It's not like I can just rip through Death Stranding. But yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's accomplishing a similar thing. It's just making me reprioritize, and I still want to do this. I think this. I don't know if we decided we're gonna break it into trimesters now instead of quarters, but come the winter, I mean, I have way more capacity to play video games. 'Cause I'm inside more often.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the goal, especially if we want to like continue it moving forward, is to probably break the year into thirds. To just give ourselves a little more time. And yeah, I think like we should just stay the course. Like at the end of August or at the end of July, excuse me. I think is when we like had given ourselves to for Red Dead and Super Mario Sunshine. I think like we still just like pick the next game for each other, and like you're just gonna have to do a little catch up to get full marks on your on your report card.
Okay,
You know.
I'll see what I can do.
I don't. I think like it doesn't need to be such like a hard and fast thing. There's really no consequences, which maybe that's what makes it easy for us to keep pushing it off and procrastinate on it and stuff. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't actually, none of it matters, of course. But it's a fun way to like again try and like get ourselves to play something that we've pushed off. But again, I think it's just as beautiful that like it's making you realize other games that you've pushed off that you just would much rather prioritize. And I think like it's in a way it's still achieving something, if it's doing that. So trying to think what else I can report back on for anything. Was there anything else that you had played this week?
No, again, traveling this week, it was a
Yeah,
pretty low week.
pretty tough. Um, oh, Shelby and I are back into Ocarina. Finally, I did the catch up stuff, and then what did we just get through? We just got through the water temple and the well. So I think we only have two more temples, and then the big fight against Clammy Ganon. Um, So we're getting close to that, and we've been trucking through Breath of Fire 2, really trying to get off of the Super Nintendo so we can start playing the PS1. Trying to think what else. Like I said, I played some Red Dead and really enjoying that. Oh, I've also got back into Persona 3. I can't remember if I had said that last week.
I think you did.
Yeah, I'm like finally hitting my stride there. So that's been fun. I've been working on cleaning up Metaphor as like if Joey and I are trying to watch something at night, I can kind of just like mindlessly go through that because I'm really just cleaning up stuff. Not experiencing necessarily anything new. Trying to think. Oh, fun update is that Shelby was messing around on the Super Nintendo, on the Switch 2 and like the emulators. She was going through like the Super Nintendo and all of those, and we upgraded to the more expensive tier so that we have access to all the emulators. We'll have access to like expansion packs and stuff like that as they come out, and are added to it and whatnot. And it's such a good value for what it provides. And yeah, she was just going through all the lists to see like, what was on there. And it's really funny because she was saying like how there's so many games that she's like never even heard of and like definitely never experienced. And I think that's just like what's so great about those. And also just giving you a more modern way of playing the games, which can be helpful, I think. Also a ton of games that like I'm planning for us to get around to, but like obviously it'll be forever, whenever. So anyway, she started playing Metroid Zero Mission because
Oh yeah.
she really enjoyed Super Metroid, and she was on the Game Boy Advance emulator, and she was like, "Oh, what's Metroid Zero Mission? Are we gonna play these games?" And I was like, "So I think Zero Mission is a remake, port of the very first Metroid game."
Yep.
And so I was like, I was like back and forth on it, like
With
whenever
save points.
Right, exactly. I was like, whenever we got around to the GameCube, because the GameCube has the Game Boy Advance emulator, much like with the Super Nintendo having the Game Boy uh, cartridge thing. Yeah, I was like, oh, we'll play through as we get through those systems. So, like, obviously, to get to the GameCube, we have to play, the Super Nintendo. Then we're going to play the PS1. Then we're going to play the 64. Then we're going to play the PS2. Then we'll be playing GameCube, if we keep going this progression. So it's a ways away, and I was like, and I don't know, we might have skipped Zero Mission, but I did want to play Fusion for sure. And she was like, okay, well, I'm going to start playing Zero Mission. And she's like in it. She's just like loving it, which has been so cool. So she's been playing that on the Switch too. So big ups to the Switch 2 and all of those emulators. A thing that I've said is cool and great and awesome, and in execution it also is.
Yeah, I mean, the Switch 2, once the GameCube library gets built out, is just like it's what people never realized the Wii U was.
Right. No, I mean that's kind of a good point, right? Because I think that's what a lot of people will like point to as like there was value in all the games that you could get and like play on the Wii U.
Yeah. Yeah, all we did was talk shit on it. No, I'm stoked. Zero Mission was such a good like. I'm glad they had the realization to be like, hey, original Nintendo games are a little hard to play because there's no save points, and uh, obviously the feeling of it was a little different. So that
Yeah.
was such a good like remake of that game I mean, even that was like 2004, I think that came out. Just to get people to play it. So I'm stoked that she's enjoying it.
Yeah.
You're gonna if you like that game, you're gonna like Fusion because it's like built on the same. I don't know if engine is the right word for that time, but
Yeah.
code base maybe.
Yeah.
Um, and like I just played Fusion sometime in the last 5 years, and it still plays so well. And I played it on a Game Boy cartridge,
Yeah.
so I imagine it's going to be great on the Switch.
Oh, well, we'll be playing it on the Game Boy cartridge.
Very nice.
Because every game that like we play, like, or again, we're playing a lot of the hits, so a lot of these games are available through like the Switch emulators. Um, but I was explaining to Shelby that like the Switch emulators have like, oh, you can create just a random save state whenever you want, which is great, and you can rewind, which is also great. I was like, but we would abuse the hell out of that, and like I want us to try and experience it as legitimate as possible. Because we can sit there and say, like, and we're not going to use the rewind, but then we're going to, like, have a cheap death or something that we feel like we shouldn't have died. And we'll be like, okay, well, just this one time. And then it's just going to spiral from there.
I sorry, continue.
And again, like, I'm not saying it's not like a perfectly fine way to experience the game. Like anybody can do it however they want. I'm just saying like how I personally, it's just my own dumb rules that I put and stipulations I put on myself. But with that, there are a couple of Super Nintendo games that we like had to just move off of because they were just like kicking our ass. That it's like no, those are the perfect ones to then, like, if they're on there, like, we can just cheese our way back to where we were and like pick back up and cheese our way through the rest of the game if that's how we have to like experience it, because we've already said like we have to move on. We suck. We can't possibly play anymore. And I'm looking at you, Donkey Kong Country 2 and Super Mario Bros 2 Yoshi's Island or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, so there's like that whole side of it as well. But yeah, so like Fusion, for example, like we're gonna play it, and so that we can stream it, we're gonna play it on the GameCube through the Game Boy Advance player, because that worked for us to play Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy cartridge. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that's probably fine. I was gonna say the rewind feature is nice for games like Luigi's Mansion, for example. When you get to um the final boss, or like even that giant boo boss that's on the roof,
oh yeah,
like just to not have to dick around with going up the entire level again.
yeah.
I don't feel like that's necessarily being cheap. That's just being practical, in my opinion.
It
Um,
absolutely is. It absolutely is. And like, I want to be clear that I would abuse the hell out of it, though. Like, I would be
yeah,
creating a
you're
save
like, oh, I'm
state.
only going to use. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. Yeah, I would say Fusion is a good game to not have that option then. Except for there are certain parts, I'm going to be intentionally vague here, that um the rewind feature would be really nice.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
other nice thing about Metroid is that there's so much hidden shit that, if you die at a certain spot, at least you can still kind of like explore your way back up. You're welcome to just follow the trail back to where you were, which is what I did a lot of the time. But
Yep.
there's opportunity to also go and get better, and I think that's why they kind of did that.
Hmm.
Was so like you didn't get, if you're getting absolutely demolished by a boss because you don't have enough of the like health tanks, then it sets you back intentionally far enough that you can go find more.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, good stuff.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time talking about this.
We sure did. Let's now talk about terrible stuff. Why not? Why not bring the mood down? Am I right?
Why not? Why not?
So Xbox. Uh, lot of bad news for Xbox this past week. Let me see if I can find a good. There's a lot to cover, frankly. So Microsoft as a whole announced, I want to say it was like 9,000 layoffs, which encroached, and Xbox was caught up in that count as a whole. And a lot of projects and personnel and studios and everything like that were decimated. Honestly, is kind of the best way to put it. Um, this was pretty widespread, and yeah, pretty terrible. Is really kind of the only way to put it. So Rare, their fantasy adventure game Everwild, which was, I'm trying to see here, looks like it was announced 6 years ago. We haven't heard anything about it. I couldn't tell you the last time we did, but kind of the first thing from Rare in a while. That's been canceled. They had a pretty senior member, Greg Mails, who had been there since the 90s. He left the company. Perfect Dark, which I think we were both getting rather excited about.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's been canceled. I think the Initiative, the team that was working on it, has also
They gone.
been shut completely. Also, this notes. I'm looking at a compilation of all the information from Eurogamer, and they also noted that, and I forgot about this. Xbox had brought in Crystal Dynamics
Yeah,
to help work on that.
they got to be pissed.
I would imagine. So you got that. Romero Games. John Romero was working on a new shooter. I think this was kind of the first time we were hearing about it from my recollection. That game has been um, shut down, or like all funding has been pulled from Microsoft. I don't think the studio is like gone.
No, but I think he's. I was reading an interview with him, and I think he's trying to find a new publisher
Yeah, like
altogether.
yeah. Um, Forza Motorsport is apparently no more.
Yeah, that's crazy. How like quietly they killed that.
Yeah, apparently Jason Schreier reported that roughly 50% of Turn 10 has apparently been laid off.
That's crazy.
A new MMO from ZeniMax. This says codenamed Blackbird. Has been canceled altogether. Let's see. And then 200 people from King Mobile Gaming have been laid off, which is reportedly roughly 10% of the workforce there. Yeah, so
And then on top of
a lot to
that,
unpack there.
an executive from Microsoft said that all the people laid off should use AI to find new jobs.
Yeah, I mean that
was fun.
Classic.
I mean, he's not wrong, but also like just don't participate right now. Yeah, this was a rough week for Microsoft. And on top of that too, like I feel like it was so poorly reported.
Yeah.
I think I sent you something that it was reported that Phil Spencer was going to be leaving after the next console came out.
Which that rumor has now been squashed.
Right. And that was a weird thing. Like, even when I sent that to you, I was like, that's such a weird, like, that's not really how businesses work.
Yeah.
And like, that wouldn't come out, especially considering how far we are from the next console coming out. Like, if we were a couple of weeks ahead of launch and Phil Spencer would be like, yeah, I'm stepping down after, we launch this. That makes more sense, but multiple years in advance. Yeah, it was just it was so much at once, and then just the information that was out there was so skewed, or you know, it was a lot of, in my opinion, a lot of exclusion from Microsoft. Like Forza Motorsport is no more, which I don't really think there was really an announcement about that.
Yeah.
I think I found out about that because there was an interview with people who worked at Turn 10.
Yep.
But apparently Forza Horizon is, that's still good.
Right.
Yeah, it's so much, and now you're kind of like, what is Xbox going to do? And I've also spent, because I assumed we were going to talk about this week. I've been trying to kind of form my opinions on it. With the layoffs, if it's good or bad. There was a lot of talk about, again, whenever Xbox has restructuring or cancels projects or whatever, it's like, oh, Game Pass is killing the industry.
That has been like a big talking point for a lot of people, but they just announced, what was it? It's been profitable since 2022.
Yeah.
Like this isn't just a thing that is a black hole that means no money and like all this other stuff. Like they aren't just hemorrhaging money left and right to prop up this thing.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was Inside Gaming. Like they've done a bunch of shitty reporting this week, which is a shame because they were really starting to get on my good list in terms of
insider gaming.
Insider Gaming. They should have picked a different fucking name.
Oh, dude, there's Inside Gaming, now defunct. There's Insider Gaming, which is Tom Henderson, and his ragtag team of fucking some of the articles, man. Just what a shame. And then there's Inside Games, which are members from the previously now defunct Inside Gaming.
Yeah, it's fucking wild. Somebody needs to change their name. And I think it's.
I'm happy to announce our new podcast title. Inside the Games.
Yep. ITG podcast. No, we can't do an acronym then. It's gotta be Inside the Games, nothing else.
Yep.
Yeah, they were just like saying, Game Pass is only successful because Microsoft has infinite money.
Yeah.
And they're the only company that can do this, and it's killing the games industry. And I mean, it's been profitable. And they said something that like their first party games have been profitable.
Yeah.
Despite being on Game Pass immediately.
Yeah. And to be clear, like just because they have the extra cash to invest in more projects, so that's what you can like view this as. When you put a game on Game Pass, even if they aren't directly like on it as a publisher or something like that, right? Like they are still investing funds or effectively rewarding, I guess, the work that has been done, because there's they aren't just saying like, hey, what's a game that's recently Blueprints, put your game on Game Pass for free. We're not going to give you any resources. We're not giving you any money. We're not giving you anything like that. You're just going to put it on here. Like, that's not what happens, right? Like, of course there's a contract and like, there's.
Well, and Xbox typically will front publishing money.
Right.
To help them build their games.
So just because Xbox does, have Microsoft technically behind them, and Microsoft does have, money on top of money on top of money, doesn't mean inherent evil. Well, no, hang on a second. It does mean inherent evil, but they are still helping to fund games and stuff like that. And to be clear, like Sony PlayStation does this as well. Like PlayStation will fund random projects constantly and help, provide cash injections. They just did it not too long ago with oh fuck. It's escaping me, but like it's not a first party game. It's not even a PlayStation exclusive, I don't think. And man, I really hate that it's escaping me.
Wasn't the 007 game, was it?
No, it wasn't the 007 game. Man, this sucks. Who cares? It doesn't matter. But to that point, like that's shitty. That's shitty reporting.
Yeah. I don't know. My philosophy is the video games industry has become such fodder that it's hard for me to want to pay, $60 to $100 for every game that I want to play.
Yeah.
Because I get into so many games now and I'm like, this is just a reskin of something else I played. Because they're just trying to crank out games right now and make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
I don't.
Sorry, keep going. No, please.
I say I don't think that these subscription services are like PlayStation Plus or whatever. I don't think they're what's killing the industry. I think it's the constant pumping out of games, and I think we talked before this podcast, and we have another episode idea where we're kind of going to talk about some of these points in depth and
Yeah.
actually kind of tie them together and analyze them instead of just bitching and yelling at clouds. But I can't be mad at a subscription service that is inherently good to me, the consumer, when the companies that are pumping out these games are just making money off of shit,
Yeah.
not allowing. I mean, these companies are putting out these big games. They're supposed to be like blockbusters, and they end up being complete just busts, frankly.
Yeah.
And then they lay off their entire development team because it's somehow their fault. And the development team's just like, yeah, it's not fun making video games anymore.
Yep.
There are a handful of studios, I think, that are actually just kind of making what they want outside of indie games, of course. I mean, like big AAA studios.
Yeah. It really is it might be too easy to just like point to the fact that suits find their way into everything and only see the value of it. They don't actually care about the thing itself. I feel like this might be bold. Might be a bold take. But I feel like the person who's best equipped, you know, at least when it comes to the decision making of, direction in which a game should go, would be a person who enjoys video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that they can necessarily make all the business decisions and stuff like that. I'm not going to paint the broadest of strokes, but when it comes to the actual making of a game, I think somebody who likes games probably stands a better shot. But whatever.
Well, and I don't, a lot of people, of course, something like this comes out with Xbox, and it's straight to blaming Phil Spencer. And I genuinely don't think you're going to find a video game CEO that enjoys video games more than Phil Spencer.
Right. Right. You think Jim Ryan is playing video games? I know Jim Ryan's out, but like,
No,
you think Jim Ryan's
but
playing
he's not
video
right
games?
now. No,
Do you think he ever was? Like
no.
maybe Tetris. Like that guy is a fucking square. Mark
Yeah.
Cerny, on the other hand, who is also a dweeby square, he definitely
video
likes
games.
video games.
Yeah, he's playing like some abstract shit.
Yeah.
He's like playing Death Stranding 2 blindfolded.
Yeah.
Just audio.
I will say that I think it's dumb to I think it's dumb to just like put all of the blame on Phil Spencer. I think he's the easy mark, of course.
He's certainly the scapegoat. I mean, you need to think that Xbox is owned by Microsoft, which is run by a board of directors.
Right.
And the board of directors says Microsoft needs to cut weight.
Yep.
And they go through all of their departments, and because it's not just Xbox that got cut. I mean,
It was 9,000 jobs.
Departments. Yeah.
At
Yeah,
Microsoft, not Xbox.
Yep.
At Microsoft. Xbox made up some of that 9,000, but yeah, it was over 9,000 jobs.
Yep. Yeah, it was a lot of their research department. Like every tech company right now, they're cutting their ESG boards. Yeah, and they're just, companies like that are just, they need the resources for AI. Because you'll see 9,000 cuts, and then you'll see them hire 10,000 AI engineers.
Yep.
So it's just, that's what we're focused on right now. And that's the space race that we're facing. When you look at Meta, just took away Apple's head of AI for $200 million. Yeah, it's hard, I'm sure I genuinely do think that Phil Spencer and Sarah Bond and Matt Booty, when Satya Nadella walks in the room and says, hey, you need to cut 30% of your staff. That's just a random percent. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure they don't take that lightly.
Yeah, I would at the very least like to imagine they don't.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think now we're seeing the consequences of the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Where it was an acquisition race and it was, a race to put out, the next best, Fortnite or Warzone or things like that. Like, the next great remake. Uh, I think the whole industry kind of overpromised the last 5 years. And I don't know if they just expected the world landscape to get better, the economy to get better, or, it really hasn't.
yeah.
I don't care, you know, what the politicians are saying. I mean, at the end of the day, the video game economy hasn't gotten better because regular, lower and middle class people who are buying video games can't afford them. So the economy's not getting better for that demographic.
Yeah.
And I think we're facing the consequences of that now. I think we're going to see a big. I think we're going to see a lot of cuts. I don't think this is going to be the end of it. But I think what in this particular case, what Xbox needs to do is they need to come out with a new roadmap because it feels like they're all over the fucking place. They were making a handheld and they, pitched it to Asus.
Yeah.
And, they're making hardware now, It sounds like, Xbox had this announcement with AMD that they're, making the APUs for the next generation. And, should Xbox actually be making a console? I don't know.
Yeah. I will say that that's kind of like uh that's the point where I think I get the most frustrated amidst all this is because the messaging from Xbox as well amidst all this has been rather shitty, like bland, like
Mhm.
it makes me want to punch a wall. In the memo to staff that Phil Spencer sent out, he literally says, and again, like I get that these are things you have to say, but like saying, quote, I recognize that these changes come at a time when we have more players, games, and gaming hours than ever before. Our platform, hardware, and game roadmap have never looked stronger. Like, brother, I don't know about that.
Right. I mean,
Like this does not
again,
this does not instill confidence.
well, it could be that the board is of Microsoft is just twisting their arm.
I get it. No, 100%. It's just like fucking read a room. Don't say that. Like,
Yeah,
like hey,
I kind of wonder.
I know we shut down 3 different games. Yeah, and with that we've never been better. It's just like all right.
So I read this. I kind of think Phil Spencer's going a little rogue. I my impression of that was just that he's pissed
Yeah.
that he's the one that has to suffer because the Microsoft shareholders want to focus on AI.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's real brutal. Um
Again, making it hard to like video games.
yeah, well, hey, hold on to your butt because I got one other thing to to tell you that
Got to get better, right?
yeah, this may be worse. I don't know. I'd have to do a calculation breakdown of the actual impact here, but uh, it was just reported I think yesterday, so no 2 days ago. If you're or no, because this episode's coming out a little late because we're recording on a Thursday, and now I'm realizing I have to edit this right as we finish.
Right, fam.
Subnautica 2 has been delayed. And this comes before a $250 million payout would have hit the developers. Basically, the $250 million payout was a bonus if the developer hit various revenue targets by the end of the year. And basically, the leadership of the developer Unknown Worlds was pretty confident in hitting whatever those targets were, and the money then would go out to basically the entire studio, the entire staff. But yeah, so they thought they were in line for that, and now with the game being delayed, it's basically all but guaranteed that they will not hit those revenue marks for 2025, and I would then assume there is no target for 2026 or $250 million bonus tied to it as such. So just a good old rug pull by Crafton here.
I mean, what is there to say about this? Like, why? I mean, do we know why it was delayed?
Nope. Yes, I think it was
Other than
delayed.
to not pay out $250,000.
Yeah,
I mean, like a technical reason.
I caught myself there because I was about to go. Yeah, there's a very glaring reason. No. I think the game is in a state where they're ready to. I think they were ready to put it out in early access for people to start playing it. So it was on target to hit probably a full release, tail end of the year. And to be clear, you can play devil's advocate of like, just because the game does come out this year doesn't necessarily mean, but like by delaying it, you are guaranteeing that there is no chance to hit the target, which is just straight up like fucking evil.
Right. I feel like if you're a publisher, you make that decision because you know they're going to hit it.
Right.
I'm going to play cynic here. I think that's the right thing to do. I think Crafton knew that this team was going to hit that goal.
Yeah, I mean 100%. Yeah, I'm not going to give them any grace.
No.
Yeah, it's extremely fucked up. Kind of like, again, amidst the fact that the games industry has just seen layoff after layoff after layoff. Just widespread. Honestly, this year I think has been air quotes better than some previous years, but like it's still not great. And we just talked about the whole Xbox thing. But then to see this, it's like, wow, isn't it refreshing to see that some people are finding new ways to be evil outside of just the easy way?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just released a game that got a 90 on Metacritic. Better go start finding a new job. Like that's the old way of being evil. The new way, man, you guys are making a great game and you are on target to hit that $250 million payout. Great job. Anyway, we're going to release this game next year. Sorry about that $250 million payout. Fucking new level. Just a new level.
Yeah. Like there should, and man, I feel like if you're a developer, you need to have, like, after this, like, I feel like we're going to see a whole new branch of litigation. Like, if you're promising that much, and of course the company's still going to find a way to get around it, but like, if if the publisher is the one that decides without any meaningful reason to delay a game before there's a paid out, like, you should still have to pay out a percentage of it.
Yeah.
Like 51%.
Yeah.
Like at least. That's crazy.
Yeah, just absurd. Just disgusting. Yeah, I saw it and I was just like kind of in disbelief because again, I didn't think there were new levels to just like absolutely no shame in doing evil shit. But every day we find something new. But I did say that I would try and end us on a positive note. So, are you ready?
One thing before you put us on a positive note, because this is still a negative note.
Okay.
Something that came up. Something that came up on my phone from 22 hours ago. EA Japan GM speaks out on Microsoft layoffs. And long story short, is basically calling Microsoft dumb because Perfect Dark was in development for 7 to 10 years. And they're choosing to cancel it now.
Uh-huh.
I think that's a bold move coming from, or a bold statement coming from somebody from EA. But
Yeah. Yeah.
he did make it clear that this is his opinion and not that of EA's. So
Yeah, and I mean,
you think about the road of Perfect Dark and how much trouble it's been in from the start. And I think it does show how misguided Xbox is sometimes. Like they should have just canceled it instead of bringing on Crystal Dynamics. Like that is the point where they should have canceled it.
right, you had multiple opportunities. Why, after you finally show us a really positive update for the game, do you then make the decision?
Right. Like we had gameplay.
Yep.
Brief, but we had it.
Yeah. No, 100%. Like, again, it's one of those things where it's like you're almost dealing with like a sunk cost fallacy, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
so I get it. Like, I guess making the decision, but with games and like with development and stuff like that, I feel like there comes a time where you like rubber band back around, and it's like, no, now you're at the point where you're too far gone. You do actually need to see it through.
Yeah.
And just put it out, and whatever happens. Right. It like you do hit a point where it's like it is now too late. Like you can kick the can down the road and like finally do it, and it's like, oh, I should have done it 3 months ago. But we made the right decision. We stopped it. But like once you're 6 months down from that original point, it's like nope. Now you got to push through. You got to do it. And obviously it's a very small timeline, and I'm not saying it's actually that tight, but to try and put it in some form of understanding. So I kind of agree with what they're saying. Like you have a game that's in development for 7 to 10 years. The 2-year mark, the 3-year mark, the 4-year mark, it never rang true to just cut it there. Instead, you kept going. I'm sorry, brother. Just fucking release the game.
And just put it on Game Pass.
Right. That's what you were going to do anyway.
Right. Like, I'm certain this probably wasn't going to have a physical distribution, but don't do physical distribution. I mean, hell, don't take up a storefront space. Like, just put it on Game Pass.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's one of those things where it's like it is always easier to just say these things than to actually know, but still.
Yeah. Well, now it sucks because like that project's just going to die. I mean, they're not. Microsoft isn't going to let Rare sell that IP.
Yeah.
So it's just going to sit out there forever. Whatever. Fuck them all.
Yeah.
Give me good news.
All right. Ready. Good news. Are you ready to defend democracy?
This isn't going to be good news, is it?
Helldivers 2. It's happening. A PlayStation game is going to be on Xbox. And I know MLB The Show was already there, but bear with me. Helldivers 2 is getting an Xbox release in late August.
I don't think I knew that.
And I think that is really cool. I think that is great, and I think it's a little too late, but I think the game is still doing really well and everything. Like I haven't played it in a while, and I'm not saying it's too late from like a game life cycle or anything like that necessarily. I just think like with a game like that, you could see immediately from playing it that it's just like the more people you have in this game, the better it is. Because there's like, whole community challenges, and obviously you can change those for the amount of players you're seeing and stuff like that, and like set like good challenges that way, and that's what they've done. But nonetheless, I think it's like one of those things that can like really band the entire gaming community together, gamers everywhere. So that's what I mean by it's a little late in my opinion. But yeah, really cool that's happening. These are the types of games that are prime for just being multi-platform and everything like that. So I'd love to just continue to see more of this. Now, if I may, to put a slight negative on it, but it's funny, I promise. Some fucking dork, some dweeby little pony, if you will, for all you console war fanatics, was like saying that on the release date for the Xbox, we all have to get back into Helldivers 2. And we have to try and get into games with Xbox players and just like use all of our like advanced stratagems and stuff like that to just like make it a terrible experience for them. And I just want to say that if you think that way, I can't say what you should do.
But you should do it in game.
But you should do it, yeah, and you should do it hard. Like, it's insane to think that way. Oh my god.
What's really funny is the people probably saying this haven't played the game in months.
Oh, Michael, you better believe it, buddy. The people who talk about games like that, I genuinely don't think play games. If you made the person that I'm talking to right now is not going to listen to this, but if you made a YouTube video this week talking about how Superman is woke, you can't convince me you find enjoyment in anything, and so your opinion is just immediately disregarded. Yeah, opinion rejected. Plus ratio.
Did you say Superman or Spider-Man?
I said Superman.
Superman.
Like the new Superman movie.
Because he doesn't use X-ray vision to look through women's clothes anymore?
Brother, I guess. Yeah, I don't know what people are. I can't keep track of what people are upset about anymore. I truly can't. It just doesn't compute with me anymore. And maybe it's because I've become the woker. I don't know.
Can we get upset about stuff? Should we make a list of things we're upset about?
How much time do we have?
I'll do one real quick. All right. I'm upset that Hideo Kojima doesn't have a Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay.
That pisses me off.
That's a really positive negative.
And I think I'm gonna make a YouTube video about it.
Okay. Yeah. No. All right. Yeah.
This world's gone soft.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm mad, dude.
That's like a positive thing to be upset about.
Yeah, well, my eye's twitching about it. So.
Oh man. But anyway, Helldivers 2 to Xbox, really great. Really happy to see. Again, I like more of that. More of these games, like locking them to one system. I know Helldivers 2 was also on Steam, and so PC players could enjoy it if you weren't in one of like 190 countries or some shit. But that's also been changed, which is also a positive. So
good stuff going on in that front.
Yes.
Is PlayStation becoming the hero again?
No. You watch your mouth. No, we don't have any heroes anymore, unfortunately.
Yeah. Just like kind of Nintendo? Nah.
Wait, what?
What?
What do you mean? Like Nintendo
I don't know.
is kind of a hero.
Kind of,
I
right?
think like they all do like some stuff that like is very like, yeah, but then at the same time it's like, ugh, ugh.
Paying more for a PS4 for a Switch 2, considering that's basically what it is kind of
Yeah.
in a move.
Yeah. It's the whole like any good is immediately followed by stepping on a rake. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, unless you had any other late breaking news, but please only if it's
Only good news.
mildly positive.
Yeah, I appreciated that good news at the end there. That was a good call.
Yeah. I had to think of something, even if it was
Yeah.
rather small.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
It's not the size of the news, it's how you use it.
brother, you're telling me. All right, well, that'll do it for this week's episode. Mike kind of alluded to it. We maybe have something locked and loaded, so kind of it would probably end up being us bitching overall, but hopefully with some substantiated evidence for our bitching. So we'll see if we have that together. But I would say probably expect it in the coming weeks, provided we don't get other really shitty news to report on. And hopefully next week we have some more positive stuff. But that does it for this week. As always, thank you all so much for listening. If you could leave us a rating or a review wherever you listen to the podcast, that would be great. You can go over to our YouTube channel, leave us a comment, leave us your thoughts on the Xbox news. Is there a specific project that you're especially upset about? We'd love to hear it. And yeah, other than that, if you could share the podcast with a friend, that would be appreciated. And we will talk to you next week.